Here's a quick tutorial on how to actually do things on Excel. So notice here, this person's IA is the relationship between children in poverty in the US and children in single parent family homes for 2017. Notice the data is for both, are both in the same year. That's important. Here on the left hand side, you see all of the states, and then you have the X variable first, then the Y variable, because that's how it's going to get graphed. In order for you to create this scatter plot, what you're going to do is just select the actual numbers themselves. Don't select any of the labels. And then this last number at the bottom, that 23 million, that's the total. So I'm not going to select that row. Once I select the data, I go to insert and I choose the scatter plot. So choose scatter plot, and then you're going to see the scatter plot come up. You can go ahead and make this larger if you'd like. On the chart title, you can change this name into whatever you want. So I can call it the relationship between blah, 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 blah. You get the picture, you can put it there. And then in the Excel version that I showed you at school, when you click on the graph, there was a little plus sign here where you can put the axes titles. In my version, I have to come up to the left, close to home, and add chart element. So I'm going to add the axes titles. Okay, so the primary, and then I can go ahead and add axis titles vertical as well. So here I can go ahead and change this. And I think this was children in single parent families 2017. So I would just say children, hold on because you can't see what I'm typing, in single parent families. You don't have to put 2017 because that's the year, so that can go in the title. Here, you should put like the number of children because that makes more sense. Number of children in single parent families, because it's not a percentage rate or anything like that. And then you would do the same thing here, and that would be the amount of children in poverty or the number of children in poverty. So you would go ahead and put your two labels. That's how you do this part on Excel. So now for actual calculations, I'm going to use this example. This is just showing the number of internet users as of January 2020 in millions, and the confirmed cases of COVID-19 as of April 28, 2020. Notice we have Brazil, Peru, Ecuador, Mexico, Chile, Panama. It looks like just kind of like Latin American countries. So this is the number of internet users versus confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Latin American countries in 2020. Trying to determine if, as the number of internet users increases, the number of confirmed COVID cases increases. This is not really a good IA. I'm not telling you it's a good IA, but this is the math behind it, basically. So again, here you have your X values, your Y values. So the X is the independent variable, the Y is the dependent variable. And then for the calculations, what I want to do is basically copy over here your x's, your y's, and then I want to do x minus the mean of x, and you're going to see that here I just write down x minus x mean, but when I go to Word, I can actually type in the correct notation for it. So I'm going to delete this just for the sake of you watching what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go insert the row. So on the top, I'm going to go x minus x mean, just as a way for me to label so I know what I'm doing. So then what would be the actual average? I'm assuming this is the total right here. I'm going to delete these. Right now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 data values. Okay, so what I would do is that I would select the entire row and one more, like all the rows and one more, and I come here for sum, and it's going to add everything up, and then I go equals the sum divided by 17 values, and it'll tell me the average. So the average is basically 425.4 divided by 17. So here when it says x minus the mean of x, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to go equals, and I'm going to select my first x value by clicking on the cell, minus, and to avoid a round off error, I'm going to literally put 425.4 divided by 17, because if you notice 25.0235, I don't want a round off error. I want it to do it automatically. So then what you want to do is click back on that answer. You see the little like green square, you drag it. And when you drag it, what that does is take each one of these values and subtract the mean. So 24 minus 25 point something is about -1. 12 minus 25 point something is -13. 89 minus 25 is about 64. So that gives you an idea that yes, you did that correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. So, y minus y mean, I'm going to go ahead and delete it. I'm going to go ahead and insert it so that way I can start fresh with you again. So y minus y mean, so I put equals, this time I choose the y value. Oh, I forgot to figure out, hold on, what the actual mean is. Let me go ahead and stop what I'm doing so that way I can figure out the average here. So for the y's, I go ahead and I figure out the sum, which is 168,828, and then I go equals this value divided by 17. So this is the average. Again, it's not perfect. It's not an exact number, the whole number. So I'm going to use this divided by 17. So I come to my first cell and I put equals. I select my first y value minus the mean of y, which is 168,828 divided by 17, and I press enter, and it gives me my answer. So then I go ahead and I select the first cell again. I look at the little green square. I don't know my colors. And then I come all the way down and notice that that should be all of my values when I take each y value and subtract the mean. So then the next thing that I want to do, because this is how you can show the calculations all in one shot instead of having to do them separately, x minus the mean of x squared. This is for me to find standard deviation. Standard deviation is the average distance of each value from the mean. So you have to look at the formula for it, and what we're doing is breaking it down. I list the x's, subtract the mean, now I'm going to square it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to delete it so then I can go ahead and add it so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to go x minus x mean squared to the second power. I'm going to open up this space right here so I can see it better. Okay, no big deal. So then I go equals. I select x minus x mean and I want to square it. So I go to the second power. That's a little caret, which is like shift 6 for me. So then you press enter. Do the same thing, get the little green square, come down, and then it'll square all the x minus x mean. So here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go y minus y mean, and I'm going to square those values. So I go equals, I select y minus y mean, and now I want to square it. So then I click on it here, and I go all the way down, and I press enter. And then the last thing is to figure out covariance for those of you who are doing correlation. If you're not doing correlation, you should not be doing this, by the way, unless you obviously need the standard deviation and you need the average, you can go ahead and do this. But covariance is only for those of you who are doing correlation. If you're not going correlation at all, this last column is not pertaining to you, okay? But if you are doing correlation, you need what's called the covariance, which is x minus the mean of x minus x mean, times y minus the mean of y, can't spell, y minus the y mean. And then I definitely need to open this up so it can fit. So then I go equals, I have to multiply this value times this value right here, and I press enter. So when I click on the little square again, it'll basically multiply those two columns for me. Did I not do this correctly? Let me stretch it down. I guess that's not working. Let me try again. Equals this times this. Press enter. Okay, so it multiplied. Let me see if I scroll it down. I don't know what I did wrong the first time, but obviously I did something wrong because now it worked. So let's try again. Equals x minus x mean times y minus y mean. Press enter, and then let's see if the numbers match when I come all the way down. And sure enough, they do. They have to, okay? So it does work when you go ahead and do that. So that's basically how you do your calculations. And what does that look like when you transfer it over to your Word document? Let me see if I can find it for you. So this is basically what it would look like in Word. Here are the states. Here you would label what the x and y values are. Then you have x minus the mean of x minus the mean of x squared, y minus the mean of y minus the mean of y squared, and then the covariance for those of you doing correlation, x minus the mean of x. So this student did not do this correctly because you're supposed to, like x minus the mean of x squared, I'm going to delete it. You have to go to insert, you have to go to equation, and so it's going to be parentheses x minus the mean of x. I have to come to this part where it says accent, and I click on the one with the little bar on top. So x minus the mean of x, and then square it. Before I even put parentheses, I have to select that I'm going to use parentheses and then squared. So that's the correct way of actually writing that down. And quite frankly, instead of x, it should be x of I, because x of I means any x. So that's a subscript. So x of I, right here, x of I minus the mean of x. So the person, look at how this is written compared to how this is written. This is incorrect, okay? So to fix this, it's y minus the mean of y. I'm going to go to insert equation, and I go parentheses. So I'm going to go to script, subscript. So yi, which is the way we write like any y basically, y minus the mean of y. So go to where it says accent. So y minus the mean of y, close. And then before I do parentheses squared, I have to come to script again, but this time superscript for an exponent squared. So that's the correct way of actually writing that down. So you have to make sure that you do that. The other thing the person did wrong here is using e, like for times 10. You have to fix that. You have to write times 10 to the negative 12 power. So insert equation, and it's a superscript here. So times, and it's 10 to the negative 12 power. So instead of just e to the negative 12, you can't do that. You can't show like that calculator notation. That would be the correct way of doing the problem. I hope this helped. Obviously, you can Google, you can YouTube anything, you can try to find anything out. It's really not that terrible. So good luck.